My name is Sarah Smith and I'm a horticulturalist here at Rogers Gardens. And thank you so much for tuning in with me for today's Plant of the Week. We do our live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Thursdays I always have the honor of introducing what Rogers Gardens Plant of the Week is. It's a really great little series we've been doing through the spring. And if you haven't figured it out by now, the plant of the week is the Itoh peony. This particular variety is called Takara, and it is just this absolutely gorgeous pink, kind of blushy with little hints of yellow flower. And the color of this, I'm really noticing, kind of changes and expands with the plant's age and the flower's age. It's just so pretty. So it's kind of this ever-changing, gorgeous thing. I love coming into this corner every morning and checking out the different colors and peonies that we have blooming. It's such a beautiful thing. Peonies are pretty new for us on the market. The peony, this variety is called Itoh. So for the longest time we were telling everybody, no, you cannot grow peonies here in Southern California. That's not true anymore. Now we have the Itoh peony. The Itoh peony is a little bit different than your regular back east peony. The typical peonies you see back east are either herbaceous or tree type peony. This one came around in the early 1900s. Dr. Itoh started trying to crossbreed the tree peony with the herbaceous peony, making an intersectional peony. And everybody told him that cannot be done. They're too different. It's never going to work. And he did manage to do it. And sadly, he passed away before it became really popular and more available to the regular everyday gardener. So another person came in and picked those up later from his widow and started continuing on his project. So it was around like 1946 or 1947 when they actually came out onto the market. And at that point they were outrageously expensive. So it just wasn't something that the regular gardener could get their hands on. And it's become more and more popular because you can grow them in hot areas. So we can grow them great here. I mean, just look at how absolutely beautiful these are. Because it's crossed with a tree type peony, even though it feels more herbaceous, it doesn't need staking. The stems are really strong on this. The flower lasts for a really long time as a cut flower. We're gonna take a look at my hat later in the day and see how well this works in the sun all day with no water. So I have high hopes for it. But it's really beautiful because it seems very flouncy, but it's very sturdy and stable. No staking on this necessary, which I think is really great. We have a lot of this color in right now. I'm looking through this whole area and it's the most beautiful color ever. And the really great thing too about these is that they're really kind of easy. I think a lot of people think about peonies as being this kind of complex, hard, fussy plant to take care of, especially since we're not used to growing peonies here in Southern California, but they're really pretty easy. If you live very coastal, they can even handle a lot of sun. Maybe a little bit of protection from hot afternoon sun or hot afternoon winds will help, because you might get some crispiness, because if you feel the leaves, they're a little soft and herbaceous feeling. So I can imagine these would get some wind scorch on hot winds, especially when we get those Santa Anas. But for the most part, very coastal, full sun works totally fine. If you're more inland, maybe a little bit of afternoon shading and just anywhere protection from hot afternoon winds for sure. But other than that, very easy. They don't like a lot of nitrogen, so when you're feeding them, make sure that the first number on your fertilizer, you usually see 3, that's NPK. The first one, N, is a nitrogen. You don't want that number to be high. So if it's around 4 to 5, that's probably pretty good. The middle number could be high, definitely. You don't want to fertilize in the fall or in the summertime, and be aware that they are going to die down. So just like anything else that we have here that dies down, I tell everybody, make sure you put a marker there or you remember where it's at, because the last thing you want to do is look at an empty space, put something there, start digging, and you dig up your roots and you're really sad because now you've dug up your peony. So you want to make sure that maybe you have something in front of it to kind of cover that area up as it dies down. But it gets really nice and tall, so it's a really, really great background plant that can peek up and surprise you, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that Itoh peony, and just those beautiful, beautiful flowers and the little buds on there. Keep them deadheaded. That will keep them flowering longer. From my experience, I find that they really kind of have two big flower flushes on them, especially if you keep them deadheaded. That is the key. So never feel bad about cutting them and bringing them in the house. I tell everybody that with almost everything. The more you deadhead something, even if it's in its prime and you're taking it in your house so you can enjoy it and look at it when you're in your home, the happier a plant's going to be and the more flowers you're going to get. So I'm telling everybody, you know, be an amateur florist in your own house and with your own flowers, and give them to friends. Impress your friends. There's nothing more impressive than bringing somebody peonies you grew in your yard. That's just unheard of. So it's kind of a really great thing. And they do make a great cut flower because they do have a really long, sturdy stem. So they're not floppy and weird. You don't have to wire them to keep them upright. They stay really upright on their own, which is really fantastic. They're a little shallow rooted, so you want to make sure that you're not going around and cultivating too much underneath the roots. And then keeping them mulched will really help too, because it'll keep their roots cool when they need to be cool and warm when they need to be warm. So mulching in the garden, especially here in Southern California, is a really great thing to do. It helps with weed suppression as well. Just makes your life so much easier. And it's also nice to not look at all the dirt. So I always tell everybody, mulch, mulch, mulch. It's really a great thing to do. Usually I like to do it in early spring. I want to stay away from mulching too much in the fall because then all of the leaves start falling and then I'm scratching up and raking up all that mulch I just put down on the ground. And then when you're fertilizing, a granular fertilizer right on top of that mulch and just let it work its way in is absolutely fine. A liquid fertilizer will work as well, but I am a self-proclaimed lazy gardener and I always typically use the powdered fertilizer just because it's just so much easier. You can just throw it on the ground and walk away. I really appreciate that. With watering, because they're a little shallow rooted, you want to make sure that it's in like very rich but not soggy soil, but you do want to keep it fairly well watered. So if you're very inland and it's hot, I would say like 3 times a week. If you're very coastal or it's cooler weather, like 2 times a week is fine. But a good deep soaking, so you're getting all the bottoms, even though they're not very deep rooted, you want to make sure you're getting water past the tips of the lowest roots, so that way it keeps searching and getting more and more established. The deeper your roots are, the happier your plant is. So that's always a good key for watering. Deeper and infrequent is always better for just about anything, honestly. And then also too, we have a lot of really great videos that we're always putting on our YouTube page, so make sure you check out that YouTube page. I know we have some videos there about peonies as well, and you can even look back through on our Facebook and our Instagram page. We have a lot of really great videos there. When the first came in, I know Suzanne has a great one where she's showing you all the different varieties that we've been able to get. At the moment, the one we have the most of is the Takara, which is great because I think it's the best color of all of them. But she's goes through all the different colors and stuff that we're able to get here. And then also we post those videos. If you missed them live, we post them so you can go back and look at them. So if you don't get a chance to ask your questions while we're live, you can always put your questions in the comments and we'll get back to you on those as well. And also make sure that you sign up for our emails. On our emails, we always let you know all the new stuff that's coming in, all the great deals and specials that we're having. There's a really great garden checklist that comes out so you know what to do in your garden. It just keeps you really well informed. It's really a great way to kind of stay connected and know what's going on here and know what to do in your own garden as well. And you can always, of course, call us here and ask us questions. That's what we're here for. Even come in and say hi to us. We really appreciate that as well. And like I said, we are live. So do we have any questions, Bimmy?
Yes, we do have a couple questions. The first, someone's asked, can you grow them in containers or can you grow them in pots?
Yeah, absolutely. They'd be great in pots. You just want to make sure that you have a really nice hole in the bottom of your pot so you get good drainage. They do not want to be soggy. You could rot out the roots. So you want to make sure that your hole is about the size of a quarter. I always tell people, I get asked this question very often, should I put gravel or stones in the bottom of my pots? And I always say, no, don't do that. That's a very old-fashioned thing that we used to do in the past, and then we started realizing that's actually way worse for the drainage than just having soil straight through. If you're very worried about soil coming out the bottom, maybe you have a really big hole, we do sell little screens that you can put in there that keeps that from happening. But for the most part, I don't really have a lot of soil pouring out the bottom of my pots. I've never really had an issue with that. So it's not really something to worry about too much. So they absolutely work in pots. Just be aware that they are going to go dormant. So you want to make sure that, you know, you're going to have a pot that at some point is not going to have anything in it, unless maybe you plant something very shallow rooted and annual around the base of it that can kind of take over while that's dormant. That would be okay. You just don't want to overcrowd those roots. So, or it could be something that you maybe stash into a corner and then bring out again. That would absolutely work as well. When it is dormant, you want to slow down massively on your watering. You don't want it to get so dry that you come back and your soil has shrunk and everything is totally dry in there. If you're coastal, you really wouldn't have to worry about watering it too often. Maybe like every couple of weeks, just give it a nice little squirt just to make sure the soil stays viable and a little bit moist, not soggy at all though.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Can you remind us the name for people who might
so this is the Takara, and we were looking at the sign here, and I noticed in parentheses it says treasure, so I'm assuming that that's what that word means. Takara. We were also speculating on the name this morning. Takara. It's Takara, Takara. And then in parentheses, treasure, which I think is kind of really cool. So I would have to look that up and see if that's what that name means, but I'm assuming that it does. But it's just such a pretty color, isn't it?
It is. Someone's mentioned that it would make a fantastic Mother's Day gift.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this is like, it's funny, colors of flowers kind of come and go in popularity, and this is the it color. Anything blushy with a little bit of apricot-y, a little touch of kind of a yellow apricot orangey color in your pink is, you go all over Pinterest and all that and look at all the wedding bouquet flowers and stuff, and this is like the it color at the moment. So and it's just so beautiful. I felt guilty cutting this flower and putting it in my hat, but I was like, you know, I'm doing a live stream, I'm gonna do it. But I did feel slightly guilty, but there's so many flowers on all these, I didn't feel that bad about it. So
and they're beautiful.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to know how much this retails for.
So they are a little pricey, but absolutely worth it. Back in the 50s, you would spend about $1,000 to get yourself an Itoh Peony. That's not the case anymore, thank goodness. These guys here are $119. They're in a 5-gallon container. They are so well established and so big and beautiful. So it's not like you're gonna have to wait on this. Every single one of these has buds and blooms on it already, multiples, not just one or two. Looking through these, this one has more than I can count. There's right here in just this area, there's this big open one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just in this area, buds. Just imagine when that opens how absolutely gorgeous that's going to be. The color of the foliage is really nice too. It has this kind of almost neat little red tinge to it. When they die down and they start coming out, the new foliage comes out very similar to like how a rose does. So if you've ever cut back and stripped a rose and then let it come back in the springtime, which you should be doing to your roses every single year, by the way, the new foliage on that's very red, and that's very similar to how these come out. The new foliage comes out of the ground kind of with like a reddish tinge to it that's so pretty and just so beautiful looking. It's that fabulous, like getting ready for spring and seeing that new stuff come out, and it's nice and tender and just gorgeous. You almost want to eat it. It's so pretty. I'm kind of funny about plants if you haven't noticed, but yeah, I think they're just absolutely stellar and exciting and something new. It's something cool. You know, peonies really only kind of have become more popular in the last 5 or 6 years. Before that, you would never in a million years think about growing a peony here.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. That's great information on the cost there. So some people would like to know what your recommendations are for soil and fertilizer.
Okay, yeah. So they want a little bit of acidity to it. I would, if you're putting it in the ground, I would mix the acid mix with just regular potting soil in a container. You don't want to mix any kind of potting soil in your ground. So in a container, you want to do the acid mix and potting mix. If you're doing it in the ground, you want to plant, or you want to dig your hole wider than the plant not necessarily deeper than the plant because you don't want to settle and get too low in the ground. So always wider than the container that it's in. And then you want to backfill and mix the acid mix with your native soil. So whatever soil you have in the ground, mix it about 70% of the acid mix to your native soil, and backfill with that. And then I would go between two different things. You can use the acid mix on there, which is what we sell, and it does have a lower nitrogen number, or I would use the rose and flower. Especially when they're really starting to bud out, I would switch to that. That will give it all it needs to get even more and more flowers. So I mix between the two in my yard quite often. I don't always have the acid mix, but I always have the all-purpose soil. The one that we use here is the down to earth, so that's the granular one that I really like. We have some liquid ones that you can mix with water, but again, like I said, I'm kind of a lazy gardener, so I like just throwing it on the ground. But the Down to Earth is a really, really great brand, and the one I pretty much use exclusively in my garden. And then sometimes I'll use the all-purpose, or I'll use the rose and flower. Both of those work fine. And you can also dump coffee grounds to help acidify. You don't want to over acidify these, though. These are meant to grow well here. They need more acid than we naturally have in our garden, but you don't want to go crazy and throw coffee grounds on it every single day. You'll over acidify the plant. So maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, a little bit of coffee grounds here and there. It's just a nice way to get rid of your coffee grounds instead of throwing it in the trash. Doing a little bit of composting with it is always a nice thing to do as well.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you. Can you just remind us once more where these are good to plant in the ground, in the pots?
So you can do them in the ground, or you can do them in containers. They work well both ways. They do appreciate sun. They don't have to be in the shade in your house, or in your garden, not in your home. Never put these in your home. But if you're very coastal, they can handle a good amount of sun, even all day long sun, as long as they're not up against a really hot reflective wall or a hot reflective house or block wall or anything like that. They want some protection from hot winds. So we do get a lot of Santa Ana winds, so they can get really crispy if that happens. If you're very, very inland and it gets really hot, you want to probably get them in a lot of morning sun and kind of cut off their sun exposure around 2 o'clock would be great. Containers or on the ground, just remember they are going to go totally dormant. So in a container, if it's going totally dormant, you might want to stash that container away while it's dormant, so you just don't have an empty container with just roots and dirt in it. You could plant maybe something around the ring of it, some kind of annual, just so you have something growing in there, but you don't want something that's going to compete with the roots of that and drown that out. You also want to make sure that while it's dormant, you're not giving it a ton of water and rotting out those roots in a container. So that could be an issue. So you want to be careful with that.
Awesome tips. Thank you, Sarah. And how do you think they'll fare in humid weather?
They'll be fine. They were originally done in Japan, I'm pretty sure, and it gets very humid there. And with the weather and stuff that we have here, these do really, really well. Now, if you're going to take these back east, I don't know how well these would fare back there. They're really made for our kind of weather, which is great because, like I said, we could never do peonies before because it was always too hot and too humid. And they just didn't fare with that. Being back east where they can go totally dormant down to the ground, get covered in snow, and we don't have that, but these ones work for that, which is really amazing. They're grown all from Monrovia. Monrovia is a local grower here. If you don't know Monrovia, get to know Monrovia because all of their stuff is always beautiful and perfect and gorgeous. It's always in this beautiful green pot with this tan colored band. Their plants are always just leaps and bounds above everybody else's plants. They use a really great soil. They really baby and pamper their plants. So when we get them in, they're always in their prime, which is really amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. I'll take one more question here.
Make it a good one.
Yeah. No pressure, no pressure. Let's see. Oh, you know what? A number of these questions you've already addressed.
Okay, yeah.
So if you're watching this, you can
Absolutely.
please... we're going to post this at the end, and so you can watch it over where she's answered a number of these questions.
Yeah. And then, like I said, if you're watching this and you're like, oh no, this is already posted, put your questions down below because we still answer all those questions for you. That's what we're here for, and we love doing that for you guys.
Okay, well, here's one that's new. It says,
Okay.
is it best to start from seed, direct sow, or start indoor?
So we do not have seeds for peonies here. I have not seen seeds sold for them. However, what I have seen is we sell them sometimes as bare root. And those usually come in pretty early in the year. So you're going to get your bare roots in January, maybe February is kind of pushing it. We did get a couple of boxes of bare roots. The bare roots, I believe, were $30 to $40 for a bare root. We had pink and we had yellow. I don't remember the names of the varieties on that, but it's just basically the roots. You're getting those planted. Even February, I think, is maybe a bit late to get those in the ground as a bare root, because you want to get them nice and established so they can come up and really give you that springtime glory that you're looking for with the peony. So as for seeds, I've never seen them sold as seeds. This is such a new thing for us that even getting them bare root, I think it's been 3 years now that we've been getting the bare roots in. So I think now that they've really been gaining popularity, I think the bare roots will probably be really popular next year. I think we were getting a lot of the boxes of bare roots in and people were kind of like, peonies, what? That's not something we grow here. And bare root, huh? So I think now that everybody really understands how well they really do here. I mean, just look how gorgeous this is. And this has been here in our kind of weird, dry, sometimes humid heat and back and forth between being cold. I mean, it's warm today and it was really cold yesterday and kind of drizzly. It's like the weather here in spring, no surprise, is always really different from day to day, and they're just thriving. They're super, super happy. So next year, look out for those bare roots for sure, and get those bare roots in the ground as quickly as you can when you get them. And then come in and buy these guys all nice and full. You don't even have to worry about it. It's ready to go. Tons of blooms, tons of flowers. Cut them and give them to your friends.
Yeah, can you show off the one in your hat once more for us?
Isn't it so pretty?
Yeah, it is.
I did feel guilty about picking this one, but not that guilty. I still did it.
There's just so many more.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. It's so beautiful. I won't tell you which one I picked it off of. You'll never know. But they're just so big and beautiful. And I love the fact that you don't have to stake these. And that they make a good cut flower because the stem is really long. Even though they feel very herbaceous, they really have a lot of structure to them, which is really great because it's intersexual. It's between the tree peony and the herbaceous peony. So it's the best of both worlds, which is really great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. That's it for today.
Thank you so much, you guys. Make sure that you sign up for our emails. Check out our YouTube page. And then, of course, tag one of your friends. Tag your mom for Mother's Day. Show all your friends that want to grow peonies, or you want to show them how great a peony can be in a yard here in Southern California. And be well and be safe and happy gardening, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye.